I ask for your grace tonight. I've got a lot of people to thank and a lot of stories to share, but I promise you I will tie it all up in a nice little bow for everybody. So, I just want to congratulate all of the other Hall of Fame inductees today, and considering a lot of things that have gone on, I'm very, very happy to be here with you guys and in front of you this evening. So, first, let me say thank you to all of the central staff, both past and present. Kathy Burnett, thank you for always being my conscience and my guide to do the right thing. Coach Gossity, thank you for your big heart and your hugs when a brother needs it. Ken Greathouse, thank you for your constructive criticism and always demanding that I do better. Brian, thank you for your kind heart and attention to detail. Coach Hilbert, thank you for being a living example of redemption. Coach Jafari, thank you for keeping it real and always having my back and being honest. Eric Niffen, thank you for embodying the spirit of gentle strength. Hannah Merriman, thank you for your unrelenting enthusiasm and love for coaching that only a few truly understand. Christian Schaefer, thank you for your counsel and devotion to our diverse student body. Ben Silvermitz, thank you for your humor and ability to solve problems. To my family, I would be remiss if I didn't thank my beautiful and supportive wife. I consider myself one of the lucky ones to have my dear wife, Michelle. Sorry. Who tolerates the long nights and early mornings. It's challenging to be a coach's spouse, and it requires unequal sacrifice. Not everyone is built for it. Those who love you and care about you will deal with the euphoria of an excellent performance and the despair of disappointment, public acknowledgement, and open criticism. I am truly blessed to have a woman in my life who demands that I am not only a better coach, but I emerge as a person who deeply respects the great responsibility bestowed upon me to empower females, especially in a world clamoring to marginalize them. Speaking of young women, to my daughters, know that Daddy loves you. Sorry. Thank you for making me feel like a superhero every day. I hope to earn that admiration for years to come. You are my North Star, my guidepost, and my entire reason to keep moving forward. To my mom and dad, thank you for allowing me to develop the tools to chase my passions. I hope you can see the strength, passion, and resolve that you've instilled in me in my relentless pursuit of excellence. Those lessons are often ones I fall back on. I am truly blessed to have loving parents who simultaneously provided me boundaries and let me dream of a life well lived with limitless possibilities. I will continue my mission to do the right thing in the right way at the right time. Now, let me ask you, why do you coach? Have you ever asked yourself that question? The answer will likely change a dozen times before your career is complete, and it will evolve or morph over time, and something that will look like nothing as it started. Looking back with the benefit of decades of perspective, it seems this is something that was always meant to be. A little more than 20 years ago, I was in my wilderness phase and a bit of a lost soul. So what was my first why for coaching? Selfishly, I needed direction. After college and a few careers, I needed a fresh start. I yearned for something to fill my soul with self-value. My mother always said I would be a great teacher, and my dad told me I wasn't allowed to go in law enforcement, and that man's not one to be trifled with. So the question was, what to do? I figured maybe if I'd see my old high school track and field coach, Steve Warren, would be willing to take me on as a volunteer. That day I showed up unannounced, and the first person I saw walking through the door was Coach Warren. He was surprised to see me. "Steve," I said, "I wanted to know if you need any help this season." And he said, "You couldn't have come at a better time." After about a week, I realized that my mom was right. Ladies and gentlemen, moms are always right. I was overwhelmed by the feeling of value, respect, and making a difference. Practice became the highlight of my day. I knew I had to return to school and become an educator. Thank you, Steve, for believing in me and giving me the trust to step into your world You initiated my journey and gave me direction, and without you, I wouldn't be here today. Now, after my first season, I needed a new why. My why was that my ego needed to prove I knew and had all of the answers. I was given the chance by eventually forcing my way into the girls' head coaching position in my second year. We broke records, all in the sprints. I thought I knew everything. I couldn't have been more wrong. My ego blinded me from a coach's real purpose. After 4 years of subpar performances, I started to look for people to blame for our limited success. My assistant coach, Ken Greathouse, demanded I get my stuff together or he would make sure I never coached again. A harsh statement for sure, but something I needed to hear at the time. To add insult to injury, there was this coach across town at Marquette High School with unbelievable success. That man used to drive me crazy. And of course, I would make excuses for why he was better than me. I judged him, his lineup choices, and how unfair it was that we had to compete against a school so much bigger than us. Beating him became the goal. After critical guidance from Coach Sean Burris on training design, our program finally turned the corner. We were more organized, kids were buying in, and things came together nicely. We won our first district title as a program. And more importantly, Coach Greathouse saw my improvement and said, "Ryan, you are now on your way to becoming a good coach." It felt good. My ego was fulfilled. And what did that coach that used to drive me nuts, Jim Carrey, if you're in the room, please stand up. Where you at, Jim? There he is. So guess who was the first coach to shake my hand and show me genuine congratulations? Well, of course, it was Jim Carrey. What a class act. As Coach Carrey would do on numerous occasions, he taught me important lessons. An outstanding coach isn't worried about what someone else is doing. Sustained success comes from focusing on your team. And if you're lucky enough to win, it is essential to do it with grace. I now make it a point to congratulate my opponents because they deserve it for a job well done. It is embarrassing. It took me 5 years to come to that epiphany. Thankfully, I count Jim and Ken as close friends and mentors who are always there to offer sage advice on the real reason why we coach. It's not about securing our ego. It's always about the kids. Not half bad to have a couple Hall of Famers in your corner. As I continue to evolve, I wanted to nurture a competitive environment that helped change an athlete's life for the better, on and off the track. We all get a sense of pride when kids exceed our expectations. But what if they don't? What if we seem helpless to help them get out of their own way? What do we do then? If you coach long enough, you will have an athlete struggle to make it through workouts, or to have those workouts translate to competition. As much as we want them to be competitive, it is critical that we assist them to become more resilient and confident adults for all of life's challenges. Years ago, I had a talented youngster struggling with this very problem. Unfortunately, she would race really well until the end of the year when pressure seemed to mount to qualify from districts. Talented enough to be a state qualifier, she failed to get out of districts 3 years in a row. I was perplexed, frustrated, and I couldn't help her get past it. Worse, it seemed I was more of a hindrance than a help. Thankfully, she did run throughout the regular season really well and hit some solid times, including a massive personal best in an exit ticket mile time trial at the end of cross country. These performances allowed her a chance to walk onto her dream school, Butler University. She couldn't believe it. She was gonna be a college runner. That Butler coach flipped something in Kara I could not locate coaching her to that point. She was like a girl on fire, setting personal records in every meet, running faster and faster. And for the first time, she had unstoppable confidence and got through districts with flying colors, qualifying to sectionals in 3 events. Finally, she had slayed the dragon, or so it seemed. In her first open race, it seemed like things were going really well. Then, with 600 meters left in the mile, Kerrigan dropped to the back of the pack as the competitors laid on a strong surge. I wanted to cuss, I wanted to scream, I wanted to kick the fence, but I couldn't because her dad was standing right next to me. However, Kara wasn't the same athlete that she was 6 months ago. She stepped out to lane 2, looked left, looked right, and shook her head as to say to herself, not today. Kara slammed down on the accelerator and dared everyone to stay with her or get buried in her dust. She wasn't going out with a whipper. Sorry. She was going out with a bang. She qualified to the state championship in a massive personal best. Now I was crying tears of joy and hugging her father. What a great moment. But the story doesn't end there. I told her she inspired me to change my master's degree. I would get it in positive psychology, so future athletes would not have to suffer alone with a coach who didn't have the tools to help athletes like her. Later, after a year in school, she would return the favor. What I haven't shared with you to this point about the story is that my wife and I had trouble getting pregnant. Kara later told me that she decided to honor her commitment that I made to all my athletes back to me. She was going into fertility medicine to honor families like mine. This, my friends, is why we coach. Lifelong impacts on people as an internal positive feedback loop. I think the final form of a coach's evolution is letting go of extreme ownership. Initially, this was brought to my attention by my assistant coach, Kathy Burnett. A former head coach herself, she once declared, "Coach, you are a control freak." She explained that if I wanted coaches to continue to work with me, I needed to give them the freedom to create and explore. She then leaned in with a sparkle in her eye and said, "Coach Banta, our sport is also called track and field. We needed a complete team, and I needed to stop hoarding talent." She was right. I made it my mission to test every athlete yearly and get athletes and talent in all 19 events. And it worked, leading to 7 top 5 finishes as a team at the state championship in 14 years. Thank you, Kathy, for your continued honesty and mentorship. Coaches must learn to delegate authority and empower coaches to develop themselves into independent leaders. I went from being a walking disaster to trying to control every aspect of my program like a draconian dictator. Yes, they might make minor mistakes, but it's important that you empower them to make those mistakes, even if they have slightly different philosophies. That's okay. It would be best to let them experiment. In the end, it might not work out the way they wanted, but that's how learning happens. Or better yet, it might go awesome, and you've learned something together as colleagues. It's a win or learn, not a win or lose philosophy. We would all be better to adopt that. Head coaches, our task should be to make our position nearly unneeded because the program can run without us. Empower athletes and assistant coaches, that's a magic combination, who we can collectively make the impossible possible. All right. One more story. A long time ago, I was a robust freshman and a track and field athlete with a lot of talent. I made the varsity squad and was at the state championship as an alternate in the 4x4. As misfortune struck, a member of our team got hurt, and I was asked to step up and run in their place. As a freshman, I felt it wasn't my place, and the spot should go to an upperclassman. I could see that Coach Warren was disappointed, but I felt like he understood as well. Sadly, the upperclassman made a mistake in the race and got us disqualified. Not stepping up, taking responsibility, and running for my teammates still haunts me today. Thankfully, my teammates were awesome. One of them, a senior at the time, Scott Tate, respected me so much, the last thing he said to me before graduating was, "Banta, this program is yours now. You gotta represent." Unfortunately, I was also struck by the injury bug, and I was never able to will the boys' team to a state trophy. To my surprise though, over 2.5 decades later, I got a wonderful Facebook post from my old teammate Scott, and it was a video of his daughter. She was the fastest kid I had ever seen in a long time. Soon it would become clear that her and her classmate, Nena Opara, were going to do extraordinary things at Parkway Central. As you know, primarily due to their efforts, our team's success rested a lot on their legs. In 2021, losing the state championship in the last event was a terrible feeling for the girls. I, of course, was proud of them, but getting so close and being defeated in the manner we were comes with its own unique sting. Thankfully, in 2022, most of our track and field team, was back. We had a dangerous group of athletes named Opara, Tate, Green, and a state record holder, Sky Lee. That's right. As one coach quipped recently, "It must be nice to have sprinters, Banta." With a bit of a chuckle, "Yes it is, Coach." Even though they got the lion's share of attention, as Coach Burnett said earlier, we were a complete track and field team, having jumpers, hurdlers, sprinters, throwers, distance runners, pole vaulters, all at the state championship. That's a great example of a team commitment. Our coaching staff was much like that as well. We had a science teacher, PE, English, social studies, and even a choir teacher amongst our ranks. We were ready, and so were our athletes. Whenever I was worried an athlete wasn't where they needed to be, like magic, they would appear, prepare, and do their work like a business trip. Mentally tough, battle-tested, and physically primed, they were ready. Unlike seasons in the past, this year, coaches from other teams genuinely respected our program. Some of them, even wanted us to win. What a difference our program is, and me as a coach became 2 decades later. The many life lessons I was taught as a coach were finally paying off. As the meet went on, there were bumps and worries, because I'm a worrier. Thankfully, Private Say's advice from my friend Jason Crawford eased my nerves. Coach Buckfar shared a state tradition with me, and a quick prayer with Coach Phil Wilbrink was the boost I needed. I was clearly loved. As the 200-meter dash approached, Coach Silvermitz and Coach Hilbert ran the numbers. If Opara and Tate did well, we would mathematically lock in our first team state title. I felt compelled to say one last thing to those 2 girls before they jumped in their blocks. I said, hey Central, give me your eyes, look at me. And then I told them, look at each other. You know that person standing next to you? You know your teammate? Do you realize that's been your best friend for nearly a decade? How cool is it that you and your best friend are going to win the first team state title when this race is complete? Individually, one of you is going to win, and one of you is going to get second. And what's more, I don't care who wins, and nor should you. But one of you is going 1, and one of you is going 2, right here, right now. How special is it that you two get to share this moment, toe-to-toe, chest-to-chest, down the track together, and cross as champions? No one gets a magical moment like that, and you're about to experience it. Make sure you own it and savor the moment. Obviously a bold statement to make at that point, but I had little doubt. What you might not know is how challenging it is for 2 young people on the same team to be that competitive and to go up against their teammate for their entire career. Then I want you to consider the struggle of what they uniquely experienced with COVID, disappointing state finishes, and injuries, while gracefully handling the pressures of leadership and expectation, all while being pushed to the limits by your best friend. I failed to get that done properly over a decade ago with Emily Sisson and Diane Robison. I am proud to say I've improved at managing these relationships decades since those extraordinary young ladies. As for the race for itself, what a marvelous thing to witness. Both took off like rockets, switching leads what seemed like a dozen times, with Caitlin eventually outleading her teammate. After calling my wife and my parents, I had one more phone call to make. Scott, I wanted to thank you for entrusting me with your child. I also wanted to thank you for that mission you gave me decades ago. The task is complete. We did it. Later, when Tate and Opara made their way back to us, I gave them a big hug and thanked them the gift that they gave to the school, our team, themselves, and their coach. What a perfect moment. Life sometimes is like poetry. Before I leave the stage tonight, let me thank all of you for giving me so much of your time. Speaking of time, it goes quickly. Please don't waste it. We all would like to win, but that cannot be your why. Our real purpose is to focus on providing a vessel for someone's emotional growth. Think about those who have done the same for you and their impact. You sit at the intersection of so many people's whys. Ask yourself what you're doing with that gift of the mutual shared presence. You have all been empowered to change the trajectory of lives that you touch. Our time here is short, and no one can guarantee how long we got. Savor each moment. Don't be afraid to be honest. Hold young people to a high standard. Demand they seek excellence. And most importantly, make it abundantly clear you love each and every one of them. Work to that why daily, and you will be blessed to rise and face the morning of a life well lived. Thank you very much.